Welcome back to our series here inside of 3D Studio Max and our still life that we've been working on here in 3D Studio Max. So, last time when we departed from each other, we were actually looking at this one luted or fluted glass that we had built. And now you can see I've got my candlestick and I've got a orange, or what will become an orange. Um, so let's talk about the orange for a second, because the candlestick was still made with the same spline modeling techniques that we used before. But with the orange, I did something a little bit different. If you'll notice, the orange is actually made of polygons as well, but this is just actually a sphere. And I'm going to show you really quick how I made this orange and gave it that little bit of roughed up feel to it. So what I did was I actually just made a sphere here inside of Max. And once I've made that sphere, I'm going to right click so that I don't keep making spheres. And select my sphere. I'm going to right click on my sphere. And what I want to do is I'm going to go down here to where it says convert to. Because right now, if I look at this inside of my modify panel, you can see I can change the radius of the sphere. I can change how many segments the sphere has. I can change whether it's smooth or not. I can make it a hemisphere if I want to. I can squash it or whatever. But realistically, I can't make any other changes to it, so I can't rough up the surface or anything else. So to make this orange just a little bit more organic, I'm gonna go back. Well, we can stay in the modify panel. But what I want to do is I'm gonna right click on my object and I'm gonna say convert to. And I'm gonna choose to convert this to an editable poly, because I want to convert this to polygons, because we want to be working with polygons, right? So a polygon is a four-sided geometric shape. Okay, so polygons come in two varieties. They can either be quads, which is a four-sided shape polygon, or they can be tris, which is a three-sided shaped polygon. Every quad breaks down into two triangles. So triangles are the basic geometric shape in 3D. So with that being said, if I have quads, it makes it really nice and easy to be able to break these things down into smaller versions of themselves by making them into dividing that quad's face. So just like we did when we looked at the line had sub-objects to it. So the line had a vertex sub-object. It had the actual segment and then the spline. With polygons, they have sub-objects as well. And when I press 1 on the keyboard, that will put me into vertex mode. And you can see I've got these little vertices everywhere. And let me change the color of this just so we can see it a little bit better. Just want to see this a little bit better. So there we go. So now we can see all of these vertices everywhere. If I hit 2 on the keyboard, that will put me into edge mode. And you can see I'm able to select nothing but edges. And then my next one, 3, will put me in border mode. Now, border mode is not active right now. It is active, but you won't be able to see anything because border mode is an open face. So let's say if I deleted one of these polygons, I'm going to go to polygon mode really quick. And I'm going to delete one of these guys. And I'll jump back to border mode. Now that I have an open edge, you can see I have a border right there. So borders cannot exist unless there's an open edge to your object. So I'm just going to Control Z that back. And then if I hit 5 on the keyboard, that'll put me into polygon mode. Well, 4 rather. Sorry. And then 5 will put me into element mode. Element mode is the whole entire shape, kind of just like the spline was. And then once again, 6 will put me back to the top level. And top level is when it's grayed out up here. So let's get back to making our actual orange have a little bit of organic shape to it. So I've got my orange selected. And here in my rollouts, because that's what these guys are called, all these little tabs are just rollouts. So they roll out and they give you different information about your object. So right now, I'm going to look at this and I'm going to say, you know what? I want to push and pull. So you'll see I have this paint deformation right here. And if you see, if I click on it right now, you'll see it's really, really strong and it pushes out my shape. Well, I probably don't want to push my shape that much. So I'm going to come in here and turn the strength of this down. So let's turn the strength down to right about, let's say 0.1. So at 0.1, you can see I can kind of click and move around and be able to displace this quite well. Now, if I hold down the Alt key will actually let me push in instead of push out. Alright, so I can push this in. And if I hold Control actually lets me smooth out the result. So Control is my smoothing modifier, the Alt key is my press in modifier, and then just clicking on the surface normally will press it out or pull it out, right? This is a great way to be able to get some organic movement in a shape without having to move around, individual points and stuff like that. So that's a quick way to be able to get something organic. Now I'm going to delete that because I already have my orange. One of the last things that I want to look at is how we can we've used our primitives to make this orange. We use the 2D line to make this candlestick and to make this loot. Right here we have. So we've used kind of a couple of different techniques. What I want to look at using right now is I want to use my primitive once again. So this time I'm going to make a cylinder primitive. So I'm going to make a cylinder primitive. So I click on my cylinder and then I left mouse click and drag, and that drags out the radius of my cylinder. And then I'm going to let go of the left mouse button and just move the mouse up. And that gives me the height. And then I'll click one more time, and then there's my made cylinder. Now remember, if you look over in your right hand command panel, you'll see that cylinder is still selected. So to unselect that, you have to right click again, and that will unselect your cylinder, and you're no longer making cylinders. Right? So this cylinder right here, I'm going to turn this into, and I'll show you, there's a little itty bitty pillbox, kind of a little pillbox thing sitting right here, right there. And I'm not going to make the lid come off like this, but I am going to make this little box. I like the little box that's in there. So once again, like I've said, you want to take something that's very simple and make something complex out of it. So simple to complex, right? So this is what I'm going to do with this box, and this won't take but a second. I'm going to go to my modify panel, and right now you'll see the radius. I'm going to make some even values in here. So I'm going to make this 24 and make the height 26. And the segments are the side segments. I'm going to put that down to only 2. And then, no cap. And then on the sides, let's turn the sides down. And I'll show you why. Because now I have a lot less polygons to deal with. So if you look at these shapes, this one has a lot of polygons because this one was made with splines, right? I spline modeled this one. So I couldn't really control the polygon count. So that's why that has all these polygons in it. And then this one here was made with splines as well. And it also, there's no real way to control the poly count for this. But this guy here, I'm going to model this myself. I can control the poly count because I'm going to model every bit of detail that I need to get into it. So looking at my box has a lid on it, right? So what I want to do, I want to start being able to modify this. I'm in my modify panel, and there's nothing to modify yet. So I need to convert this into something that's modifiable. So I'm going to right click, go to convert to, and I'm going to say convert to editable poly. So now my model is actually a polygonal model. I can edit this. And you can see in my rollouts over here, I'll look at a couple of these. The two that we're going to be working with the most is going to be edit geometry, and I'll probably use my subdivision surface. But for the most part, I'm going to be using this edit geometry part of it. And let's also open up the rollout right here for my editable poly, so I can see my sub-objects. So the sub-objects I have in here are vertex, edge, border, and polygon, like we had before. What I want to start doing is I want to start modifying this. So I'm going to give myself a cap first. So I'm going to go here to polygon. And when I click on the polygons, you can see the polygon is one face, right? So I'm going to click on that polygon right there. And what I'm going to use is I'm going to actually come in here and use bevel. And I'm going to click not on the bevel tool, but I'm going to click on the bevel settings. So you see I'm in edit polygons, and I'm going to click on bevel settings. The reason why I do the settings box is because it brings up this interactive stuff in the viewport, which is actually really nice. Because if I do this, you can see right here I can change the height of the bevel. Alright, so I can change the bevel's height. I also can change the outline of the bevel. So I could push this out like this, and I'm going to bring this down, and then let's bring this in a little bit. So what I'm making right now is I'm actually making the cap. I'm making the top piece that's supposed to fit down over top of this. So it needs to be a little bit bigger than the actual piece that I have. So that's just like that. And I'm not gonna hit the check box. I'm gonna hit the plus box, because what that'll allow me to do is I can do the bevel that I've already made, and then it'll let me do another bevel. So I'm just gonna keep moving up, and let's move this in. This is just like this. So there's my little box. I'm gonna apply that, and I'm not gonna add another one, so I'm just gonna hit X. So you see I applied it twice, and now I have this all the way around. Right? The next thing that I want to do is I want to, actually let's do this. I'm going to come in here and pull this down just right about here, and I am going to do one more bevel. Well, actually two more bevels. I'm going to, because this is going to give me the ridge, so I'm going to bring this down and bring this down and bring this out just a tiny bit, just like that. And I'm going to apply it, and then I'll move the next one up, bring the outline for this out, and then apply that, bring the height of this down, bring this in a little bit, apply, and then bring this in a little bit, and let's get this, and then apply, and then I'll exit it out. So you can see that if I go back in here and look at this, and we can see our piece, we can see there's like this little itty bitty ridge right around this, and there's one down at the bottom too. So to easily get the other one down here, I can do the same things I was doing before, or I can take a little bit of a shortcut. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to edge mode, and I'll select all these edges all the way around, right? And I'm going to say I want to connect them, and you see it makes me a brand new edge that goes all the way around. I'm just going to bring that edge straight down in Z, just like that. And then I'm going to go to polygon mode, click on that polygon, and you can see I can select all the way around. If I actually click on one of these polygons and hold Control and Shift and then click, you'll see it selects the whole ring all the way around, which is actually really nice. It's what I wanted it to be able to do anyway. So I'm going to bevel this one more time. I'm going to go back to my settings, and I'm going to bevel it out, not in. So now this is beveled. Now you'll see something really weird happening with the bevel. It's shifting side to side. Well, the bevel is based off of, right now my bevel is based off the actual group of what I have selected. But if you come to the very top of the options for your bevel settings, you can come here to this little box at the very top and click on that, and I can actually set this to local normal. Now, the reason why local normal actually works better is that you'll see, based off the normal, it'll actually press out against where it's coming from. Alright, so make sure this is going the right way. There we go. So I can bring this in, and you can see this will actually come out to the bevel of where it's supposed to be. And I'm just going to hit apply because I only want to do it one time. So I'm going to go back in here to edge mode really quick and click on that edge. I'm going to hold Control and Shift, and it won't let me get in close, unfortunately. I can go in here, I can go into selection and tell it to do a loop. So I can select that at one time. So I'm going to pull this up a little bit. And there's my little box. And you can see that it didn't take me very long to build the box. But this is what's really cool. These look really smooth because these have a lot of polygons in them. But I can actually make this guy right here appear smooth by adding what's called a subdivision surface onto it. So if you look at this actual, I'm going to change the name of this from cylinder to pill, if I can type correctly. So pill underscore box. Alright, so I've got this selected. What I'm going to do is come here right to my subdivision surface rollout, and you'll see smooth results is checked. ISO line display is checked, show cage is checked, but the one thing that's not checked is use NURMS subdivision. I'm going to click on that. And you can see what it does is it makes this appear as if it's smooth. And right here for iterations, I'm going to turn that up too. I'm going to turn that up to 2. And you can see that I've got my little ridge down here. And I've got my little ridge right here, like it's got a top on it. And there's my little pillbox. That's pretty much it. One thing that I want to do to make this a little bit more apparent, I'm going to come in here to polygon mode. And when I have my subdivision surfaces turned on like this, when I have these NURMS turned on, it shows me like an orange cage of what the polygon would be, and then, you know, kind of what the smooth result looks like. So what I want to do is I'm going to get my scale tool, and I want to scale this in a little bit, and I want to get my move tool, and I want to move this up inside of here, just a tiny bit. Right? So I've got like a little, you know, concave looking shape to this, which is really what I want. And then looking at this right here, I'm going to go back to edge mode really quick. Select all these edges, and we'll do another connect. So I'm going to click on connect. And the reason why is that if you look at this right here, this angle is a little bit too smooth. I want to make that a little bit harder angle. So if I grab this and pull this up, you can see how that's tightening that up. If I turn off use NURMS, you'll see the only thing I did was add a new line in right here. But this line, let me undo that. This line is what we call supporting geometry. So this line is going to keep this corner really nice and tight right in here. If I turn on use NURMS, you can see how tight that is compared to the line on top. So you can see that I probably want to add a line on top too. So I'm going to click on here, and I'm just going to use my selection tool, and for this guy here I'm going to ring this around, and the ring goes around, and I'm going to hit connect and do the same thing. I'm just going to pull this down, not too far. You always want to make sure you're looking at this in the unsmooth version of it, and then put it back into smooth so that you can see if your changes are making the appropriate changes that you want. And this looks pretty good. I'm going to turn off show cage. You can turn that off, but honestly, once you come out of sub-object mode for whatever object has a NURM subdivision turned on for it, the cage will just automatically go away. So you can now see that I have got this nice little pillbox that I made. Took me like 2 seconds to make it, And before we go, I'm just going to go ahead and make myself a plate. So I'm going to go to my front view, and let's go back in here, back into my create, and go to my shapes, get my line tool. I'm going to make myself a quick plate. So I'm just going to make this relatively quick, and this will be pretty easy. Now remember, because of the nature of how the lathe tool works, I only have to make half of my shape. I don't have to make the whole shape. So I'm going to go in here to line and go to vertex. And remember, I can take these guys and I can smooth them. So I'm going to smooth that one. And I'm going to smooth this one. Let's make sure, yeah, let's smooth that one. And pull this in a little bit. Just like this. That's cool. And this one here, I'm going to make this smooth as well. So there is my shape. I'm going to go back to my top level mode. I'm going to go here to hierarchy and move my pivot. You always want to make sure that your pivot sits at the center of your lathe, because the lathe operation basically takes that outline of your shape and revolves it around a 360-degree core. So it kind of just revolves all the way around it. So if we look at this right now, if I go back here to modify panel and go into my modifier list, I'm going to go down here and get lathe once again, and you can see once again my lathe has come to the rescue. It has made me a plate. And to make this smoother, I just need to add more segments to it. That's really all I can do, because remember, we did not make this. This is just a I'm going to show end result, but we did not make this particular piece. The only thing we did was we just, realistically, all we really did was just lathe it. So I've got all of my major elements that I need for the start of my still life. I've got my loot, so I've got glass, I've got metal, and then organic. So I can start to set my scene up and start to play with my lights and play with my textures. In the next video, what we're going to start doing is applying some shaders to these objects. I'm going to show you guys how to use shaders, and then later on we'll talk about how to actually take a texture, a 2D texture, and turn that into a shader. So, and shaders are all about making things look physically the way they should. So in the next video, we'll deal with starting to shade our objects, and then after that, we'll actually start putting some light into our scene.